Are you all ready?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Public hearing. Oh, man.
It is just a couple minutes past time for our public hearing.
run it over here.
I would like to call the meeting to order. And our public
my
hearing
dog.
is on the emergency ordinance to allow for the continuity of government operations during the pandemic, including altering the process of conducting public meetings, restricting the use of public buildings and facilities, providing additional powers to the Director of Emergency Management to incur cost, waive procedures, and take other temporary actions, and suspending deadlines and procedures. If there's anybody that has a public comment to make on this, you can step to the podium or call in, state your name, and everyone has 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Barton, do you have any explanations, anything we need to tell or discuss on this?
I do not. This ordinance that you have before you is the same one that's been passed many times before. The only change, I think, Mr. Sturgill, is the word emergency is no longer in the ordinance that was taken out and the date updated on it. So all this would do is just allow us, in the event of an event like we had before with the COVID pandemic that may prevent us from meeting in person, to allow us to be able to continue government operations. So,
Yeah. And that is correct. The word emergency was taken off of there. Under Virginia code, you can do an emergency ordinance for up to 60 days. What we were looking at here was doing for a 6-month ordinance to allow it. And so that's the reason that that word was taken off.
Okay.
We may have to pass one to do them at home if gas gets $10.
that's true.
Approved. We have anyone called in?
If there's no comments, I make a motion, we go ahead and close it. I
Okay.
think it's time anyway.
Yes, I seen that. I had just checked my time. And we need a second for that.
Second.
Okay, we have a move and second to close our public hearing. All in favor, please say aye. Aye as well. It is now 6 p.m. It's time to begin our regular scheduled monthly meeting of the Board of Supervisors. We would like to say that all members are present. Our clerk, Teresa Lyle, our county administrator, Mr. Barton, our county attorney, Will Sturgill. We also have with us our economic development advisor, Bud Phillips, joining us tonight. I'd like to welcome the congregation that has come out to our meeting, as well as people who are watching online. And I guess our first thing is I'm going to ask Mike Gates if he would be so kind to lead us in prayer.
Amen. Let's pray. Father, today we come to your throne of grace, Lord, asking for favors when we need it. There's sufficient trouble for the day, and Lord, we know that in times of trouble that you're a ready help. So we come to you tonight, Lord, asking for you to guide us in this, keep our hearts calm, give us good reason. Lord, give us the ability to think through situations and make good decisions, Lord, that would be beneficial to our citizenry, would be honorable to you in all things. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
And if all will stand, I'll ask Ron to lead us in the pledge.
Everyone face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
Madam Chair, before we move on, I was watching the news and I've seen there's 14 children and a teacher that have been shot to death in Texas. Might I suggest we take just a brief moment of silence and think about those children and families in Texas and the law enforcement officers dealing with that?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, you're welcome. I had heard that, but I had not heard that I just heard it on the news on the way over, and they was not releasing at that time, didn't release if they was deceased or what.
14
but-
children.
Oh, my goodness.
Unimaginable.
Okay, our next order is the adoption of our minutes. Do we have any comments, corrections to our minutes, our budget workshop on March the 28th, our budget workshop on April 22nd, and our regular board meeting on April 26th?
Madam Chair, I'll mention that on the March 28th budget workshop minutes, Ms. Lyle made a correction to page 1 on that. You were incorrectly listed as vice chairwoman, and Mr. Evans was listed as chairman, and she did get that corrected, so.
Oh, okay. No big deal. I don't guess, not personally anyway. Okay. We need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion, we approve all of the minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a move and second to approve and adopt the minutes of the last 3 meetings that we've had. And all in favor, please say aye. Aye as well. And number 4, the approval of the agenda, and it looks like that we may have one addition, which will be added in 15A.
Ma'am, we have an at-large appointment for the
Yes.
IDA to consider as well as the
Okay.
appointment for the Kennedy District, so.
Okay, all right.
Madam Chair, might I suggest, I know we have law enforcement officers here with their families and their children. Not to say that 5, 6, and 7 shouldn't be that long, but I would suggest we move 8 to 5, and let's do that next with the presentation for their families. That way, if they got children and have a night shift or whatever, they might can get out of here quicker,
Okay,
if that's okay with the board.
that's fine with me.
I make a motion that we go ahead and do that.
So I would, Madam Chair, I would move that we, sorry, Ms. Willis, I'd make a substitute motion that we
Okay.
bump item 8 to item 5, and then we add 15A to the agenda, and then, so I move that we adopt the agenda with those modifications.
Okay?
I'll second the motion, Mr.
Okay,
Evans.
we have a move and second on the floor to move item 8 up, which will be our next order of business, and add 15A, and then fall back in line with these other 3. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And I as well. Okay. Moving on down to the recognition, if Miles Osborne and Jerry Fuller would please come forward. As these gentlemen make their way, on Sunday, May the 8th, officers Miles Osborne and Jerry Fuller responded to a house fire in the 200 block of Market Street in the town of Clintwood around 4 a.m. Upon arrival, the doors of the house were locked and they entered the home while heavy smoke and flames were present. The homeowners were still inside the house, and these officers safely escorted them out of the structure. We would like to recognize Miles Osborne and Jerry Shane Fuller for their heroic actions on this early May morning. These 2 Dickinson County Sheriff's Office deputies risked their lives by entering this burning home to rescue the couple from their residence. We would like to present each of you with a certificate of appreciation along with a first responder coin in honor of your service and sacrifice to this county. And we thank both of you for your bravery and service.
Coordinator, I want to let you point out, I'm going to salute you because I know you're a local here on the military way. I don't expect you to return a salute. You as well. Thank you. And people's lives who say that. I'm proud of you.
Board, can we get a picture with you all?
Yeah, let's get all the supervisors.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yes.
Let me get home. I'd like to personally tell these young men, thank you. I didn't realize this would take place tonight, but the two individuals in that home were my older sister and my brother. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your sacrifice.
Can you guess?
I can get you all in here, so count of three. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you all.
I think Angie's ready.
If you go get in also.
Yeah, get your kids up here.
Then you're walk. You ever walk?
Let them bring their children and their families up with them.
Well, let's do one with them then.
Yeah.
You got, can you get Larry and everybody?
Back up there.
Say, I watched this young man right here grow up, but very proud of him. With that size. He just- April, y'all wanna come up?
No, y'all go ahead.
Come on, come on, they're my neighbors for years, come on, come on.
Maybe camera.
Mm. April's a lot prettier than you, but.
You say you want to put her name? No, she said April's got pretty.
He's awful aggravating. That's all right, I'm okay.
I guess it from the back a little bit.
Here, here, let's go get your picture. Oh,
Reindeer.
there you go.
You're smiling.
Look his way, Shelby.
Okay, and if we can get one more with all of our guys from the department.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, with the department.
They're gonna take one with
Thank
us.
you all.
Okay, Bobby.
Hey, Angie, get up there with them, and I'll get you.
Yeah, I forget. Butler's for a ride on that motorcycle. Larry said he would.
Lord, yeah, I miss her every
Go,
day.
Angie.
Appreciate it, Josh. Thank you. Hold your certificates up, boys.
Can you get them on?
Get in my personal. I'm just.
I know.
Oh, I'm trying to get out of here.
I know what you're doing, I'm fine. You need more.
Everybody look.
That's wonderful.
One of the best memories was Bubbles.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you all. Okay. I'll still see you. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you all.
That's terrible.
Thanks, Scotty. I think you're doing good.
Okay. I guess our next order of business is our county administrator's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Right now, with the issues going on in the treasurer's report, they don't have everything closed out for the month of April, so we'll have to do that next month. Our treasurer's out with an illness right now.
Okay.
But if I could, I can move on to expenditures and go ahead and cover
Okay,
that.
that'd be fine.
On our expenditures for the month of April, in the general county fund, our expenditures were $1,169,847.32. The enhanced D911 fund expenditures were $85,362.11. Nothing for coal and gas road improvement fund, and the CARES Act was $1,520.
Okay.
I'll entertain any questions or concerns you have.
I think I submitted a couple of questions from the report.
Yes, and I think we answered all those
And
for you. If
we
you have
got
any more,
all
I'll be glad
that
to answer
answered.
them.
Fine. Okay, if there's no other questions or concerns on the expenses, I need a move and second to approve the expenditures.
I make a move that we approve the expenditures.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a move and
I
second
went over
to,
them too, and there wasn't nothing unusual about them.
have a move and second to approve the expenditures. All in favor, please say aye. Aye as well. Moving on to, we're down now to item 8, which was 7, which is public comment. Same rule applies as in our public hearing, that you can come forward to make your public comment, to state your name, your address. Everyone has 3 minutes. I guess sometimes we carry on the conversation and we end up letting you go longer than 3 minutes, but we have 3-minute limit. And the same thing with anyone who calls in. You also need to state your name, and you have 3 minutes. And the telephone number is 276-333-0357, which I think it is running on the live feed for you to see as well. And I will now open the floor for public comment.
Hello, Paul O'Quinn, 796 Newberry Ridge, Clintwood. Just a brief comment. I mentioned this last night at the IDA board meeting. You guys probably saw in the paper a while back, those Entrepreneur Express classes have started back up. I actually attended the one in Bristol a couple weeks ago, and it is a really good high-level overview for folks that are interested in starting a business or have a business and are looking to maybe expand. So just wanted to share that in case there's anybody you would want to share that with, that feedback. And then also tomorrow is the Southwest Virginia Economic Forum over at UVA Wise. I did see an email today. They're taking walk-in registration, so even if you haven't registered, you can still go. And I believe there is an option to do that online as well. So that's all I had.
Thank you. I am registered. I think Ms. Sluss is registered, and I think Mr. Barton is all registered, that we will be going. Any calls? Okay. Still no call. I guess I'll entertain a motion to close public comment. Doesn't seem like anyone else has anything, and we can move on with business. We do have several things on our agenda tonight, but still wanted to offer this time for people to make a statement.
I don't think you need a motion, Madam Chair. We
Oh,
can
okay.
just move on.
We'll just close, okay. Move on down to item number 9, which is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer contract with the Sheriff's Department. We will ask if Mr. Barton will give us any kind of explanations and stuff on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is something that the Sheriff's Office has been working on for some time. I've assisted somewhat with it. Ms. Fuller's assisted with it, but this is our new contract with the Corps of Engineers for the next 5 years that has been negotiated. And as you can see, I'd reach out to each of y'all back on May the 9th. We've included the signed copy on this. They needed this copy back so they can begin orientation and have everything in place to begin this weekend. But it outlines the schedules, the hourly rate, and the number of hours that are billed, or that are billable each year for this service that we'll be providing in law enforcement work for the 3 campground areas from May through September of each year. And there's an escalator each year between the year 2022 and 2026. And this is always staffed by our sheriff's deputies, our off-duty sheriff's deputies, to give them opportunity to earn some extra money that comes through to them, and then we get reimbursed for the cost of the fuel and use of equipment and things like that. So this does see about a 5% increase for the current year that we're in right now. And then there's escalators all the way through 2026. So I'll try to answer any questions anyone has. If not, we'll entertain a motion for approval.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that had the 5-year dates and stuff in it.
I make a motion that we approve the Corps of Engineer contract.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a move and second on the floor to approve the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer contract with the Sheriff's Office. All in favor, please say aye. Aye as well. Number 9, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers right of entry for survey of the Clinchco Fire Department site. And I think Mr. Barton has been in contact with the Army Corps of Engineers on this, and if he would like to give us an overview on this as well.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Of course, this is part of the Corps, the 202 floodproofing project that we've been working on for some time in the county. And the property that the Clinchco Fire Department is currently located at is owned by the county. And in the process, we've submitted an application. The county done our part, and the fire department filled out their application. They've been assessing that building for whether it would be rehabilitated and brought up out of the floodplain or whether it would be relocated. But during that time, they have discovered that there's an underground storage tank located on premises that is not permitted. It's not been through the proper permitting process. There's nothing of it being on record. So the origins of it and the usage of it and the condition of it are all unknown. So in order for us to continue with our application for the floodproofing, we have to give the Corps of Engineers the right of entry for survey, exploration, and investigation on this tank. What they will do is they will go onto the property, they'll have to do some excavation work to look at or some inspection of the tank, possibly some excavation. If there has been any leakage or any environmental damage or risk from this tank, then it will be the county's responsibility to pay all costs, all associated costs of cleanup, which could turn into a large sum. We don't know the origins. I talked with Mr. Mullins from the Clinchco Fire Department. He shared with me that the rescue squad, he had thought had used that tank previously and they'd stored fuel in it for their vehicles. But where it's an unpermitted tank and hasn't been inspected under the years, the condition is unknown. And before the Corps can continue, we'll have to agree to this right of entry form. So I'll try to answer any questions that you have on it.
I just got a statement, if I may, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're gonna have to do the right thing here and clean it, take out.
Hopefully there's no
responsibility.
cleanup, but if it is, then it'll be
But I
our
wanna
responsibility.
state up front that we as a county have got to be very careful in the future of taking freebie land or stuff that's granted to us without verifying some of this stuff, because you can take on some huge liability things. We should also, if there's any organizations that we're allowing to use county property, we need to make sure we have agreements in place that ensure that they have to get approval before they can install stuff on those properties that could potentially lead to this kind of situation.
That's a good point, Mr. Peters. So, and we obtained this property from Cliffville Coal Company is where it came from originally, and it was donated, so.
This could involve a lot of money,
It
correct?
can, Ms. Celeste, yes.
If it's
We don't-
fuel and,
Yeah, we don't know anything about the condition of the tank
do
or
you know
if
how
there has
big
been
it
any
is, or
leakage. Excuse
do
me?
they have an approximate size?
They do not. Everything's kind of unknown because it was not permitted. It's a non-permitted tank. Whoever put it in didn't go through the proper process.
It's a risky thing, but we kinda, if we want others to do it, we have to take responsibility and do the right thing too.
There's no limit to
And
the
that's
potential liability for cleanup. And the cost may exceed the appraised value of the property. That's a kick in the,
Yeah, and one thing too, if we don't vote to do this and we withdraw, then that property and Clinchco Fire Department gets nothing.
well, we don't want that.
They won't move on to do what they need to do.
Right, we'll have to pull that application
Yeah,
from
that-
consideration.
Yeah, that application will be pulled.
And I'll,
always
just as
something,
another
ain't it?
note,
Always.
just as another note too, if there is something there and it hasn't shown its ugly face yet, if it later does, it'll still fall back because we own the land.
Yeah.
Correct.
There may be the chance that nothing bad's happened, but could happen.
Right.
And if we capture it now, we may avoid something in the future.
So what, I've had residents with this similar, so if we don't endorse this, what, they don't relocate it if it's eligible to be relocated?
Right, it no longer becomes an eligible property for consideration of floodproofing.
So do we think it's eligible anyway?
We do. It appears right now that it is eligible based on the knowledge that we have.
Yeah, it would be we just unsure whether it's floodproofing or
we
actually.
So
don't know if
Will, I mean, have you read this?
Yeah.
So, I mean, do we not open ourselves up to more expense and exposure by allowing them to do that? I mean, so we have to fix it if,
It's on our
I mean, I
dime.
think we don't sign it. I mean, where are they gonna relocate them anyway? Who's to say that they even,
Right, they
and what I'm saying, if we sign this, then we get stuck with $100,000 bill to fix it, and they don't even get relocated.
it could be more than that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
if it
vote
later-
not to- I'm
If it
voting
later
not to
leaks
sign this.
into the river, if there's something there, then we could still get hit with that cost and more probably.
Well, I mean,
That's the way.
I'd rather that happen than the federal government come in and make us do
Then we'll have the
$500,000
EQ on our
of
head.
work we wouldn't have otherwise done.
Could DEQ come back if we don't approve this?
No.
And they got word of this, could they do anything
leaks
to
in
make
the
us?
river.
It's grandfathered in, we didn't do it.
It's a good question. I'm not sure. Mr. Sturgill might be.
Well,
able to answer that better.
we're not sure the coal company did it.
Well,
we've
we
been-
didn't do it.
What?
We didn't do it.
Well, they don't know that. Not us personally,
Well,
but whoever was using the property on our behalf may have done it.
Is there a time period they're asking this to be approved by?
She had contacted me yesterday as a follow-up. They're needing it as soon
I
as
don't wanna
possible.
spend
but if
the money
we need
either.
Well, what I
to
guess
do
I'm
another
saying
month, We
is-
can always do that.
I've had two people consult me about this on their own private, they're in the flood areas of the county, in the McClure area. And I've instructed them not, I'll use that same analysis for the county and this board. My vote is to not do this, because you're exposing yourself. Read it, I mean, this is something that the good old Dixon County will get stuck paying the bill on a big mess. I'm just telling you, I'm not voting for it.
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
I'm of counsel for, if county attorney and I maybe talk at you just a little bit about what is the stake here. There is an underground storage set of regulations in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Those underground storage tanks comes within the purview of Department of Environmental Quality, I believe. And if there is a known storage tank that exists that potentially have fuels or other particular fuels, diesel or gasoline, and that is on your property that you now own, potentially it could become the liability of the county to take care of that problem and issue as ordered by DEQ. If it is in any way leaking or any way polluting the nearby stream, then you would have an obligation potentially under state law to pay for the environmental cleanup of that. Now, I will give you an example of what you went through with the DEQ, if I recall correctly, for the siding of the new courthouse. There was a service station there. And there were the allegations that potentially would be oil, gasoline, or diesel there. Before you could get DEQ's permission to go ahead and develop that properly, you had to spend funds to do borings and sampling of soil, soil testing to go ahead and use that facility without. So my understanding is that it did work out that you were cleared to build on that by DEQ. And so one way or the other, either through, and this is something what I would recommend that you not go ahead and sign it tonight, but have counsel, or legal counsel, look at the underground storage tank law and provide analysis to you as to what your obligations may be if you elect not to allow the Corps of Engineers to come in, and so that you have all the facts and information at hand before you make a decision of how to proceed with that underground storage.
I agree with that totally.
What timeline do we have on this, Larry?
Well,
can't
that's what I was
remember
gonna
what you
say.
Shouldn't give us this,
in
they're
this-
wanting it back, but I think we've got another, I think we can get
Okay.
another month without a problem, so.
Well,
I guess what I'm saying is, why should the county and the taxpayers be differently than you would treat your own property? If a government official comes and says, sign this easement, I'm coming to inspect your land. If I find something that's not in compliance, you've got to pay to fix it. I'm not signing it. And I don't think that we should bind the taxpayers to sign something like that either, but I agree with
We
Mr.
got, what
Phillips.
we need to verify though, we
Well,
may be
true.
bound because we didn't know about it, but now we do, and we may be responsible.
Well, that's right,
for
and that's
it.
why we maybe need to research it, but.
But they're just telling you that they're not gonna pay for it because this is not what they're here for. They're not here to clean up environmental messes that we may have created here locally.
DEQ could potentially order the county to clean it up now. Ms. Rhonda knows a little bit about.
Yeah, I
this.
bet you do. You mess with them fellas.
Well, how did we learn about the tank?
When the Corps, the fire department was participating in the Corps 202 project, and upon inspection of the property, the Corps discovered the
So
tank.
did they notify
It's
DEQ
late,
as a
the
part of
EQ
this?
make us clean it up anyway.
What I'm saying, if this ends up being something that's costing the taxpayers money, why are we fooling with it?
Well, if I might.
Who owned the property before this
Clinchfield.
Clinchfield?
I'm saying is, if they're, how to start, I don't
One
know.
final comment. There is a underground storage tank cleanup fund that DEQ in the state of Virginia has, I assume is still funded. And when I left the General Assembly, it was. And if you find that there's an underground storage tank potentially leaking or having problems, then there are grants available, as I understand it, to allow the cleanup of that site. And so it would be preferable, in my opinion, at this time to let your council do your research, find out what the options and solutions.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's a good way to go.
Let your county administrator then, once they find out, if the fund is still in existence. And I'll give you an example, there was a underground storage tank in the city of Norton right there, and the city of Norton on the left, council, I can't remember who owned that little piece of property there, right in the middle of the town.
Not sure.
Still there, I think, on the left, that shows the town. And they discovered that they had a leak and so forth, and DEQ came in and made some assessments and found that the tanks were in fact leaking, and they expected that owner to clean it up, but he didn't have to clean it up, so that they did have the underground storage tank fund kick in, help them clean that situation up at no expense to the
I agree wholeheartedly. My whole point is we cannot, now that we know it's there, we can't just ignore like we never had occurred.
What a nightmare.
What's that?
I said, it's just
Well,
a
he needs
nightmare.
to, Will needs to
That's
check
because
that
of
one.
his behavior in the past.
And I'll be happy to do that.
Madam Chairman, I might say
I make a
something.
motion that we table it.
Well, let me read this one statement, and I will go back and accept that motion. The last paragraph in this letter says, if we have not received a response within 30 days of this notice, we assume you no longer wish to participate and withdraw you from the program. If you have questions, or if you choose not to sign the right of entry, please call this person and the phone number and stuff that's in this letter. So should council send a letter asking for an extension?
That's
I'm
what
sure
I-
that's just
Well, this
boilerplate.
letter was written April the
Won't
27th.
we be back by 30 days?
I think your county administrator can call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
I can
too.
call, there's a lady I've been working with.
Yeah, I don't think
30
I can call
days
back
has already
tomorrow.
expired, and almost.
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 I would think that they will grant you a reasonable time.
Yeah, I think so
Right.
too.
Yeah, but we
That-
probably need to address
Yeah.
that to get that time, because according to this, then they could assume that. You know.
If I may say something, you know, DEQ has really caused us a lot of problems.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't wanna fool with it.
Well, they have caused us, they have stopped some of our projects, like the
Exactly.
one up there by Clintwood Lumber, because they said that was an
Is it okay to
impervious.
say-
The gravel was
I get
impervious,
research
which
it,
I
I mean, but
disagree
I'm
with them.
We do, because.
I mean,
'cause we're
gravel
not
is
sure it
not
has anything to do with
impervious.
the coal.
Water goes through gravel.
Because there's alleged the rescue squad
And
man
then,
did it.
you know, I just think that I've had some dealings with
Not the fire
DEQ in my
department,
job
we
and so
just-
forth, and, you know, I disagree with some of the things they're doing, and I think we should talk to our legislature about DEQ, because that's a completely state-funded agency.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chair, if I could, one final comment.
Yes.
And that was mentioned by the gentleman, Asa. There are enforcement actions that can be taken against the county.
That's true.
If you ignore it and say, we don't want to deal with it, if there's issues and problems, DEQ will enforce it in court for injunction.
Well, when we get a letter from DEQ, then that's different than the posture we're in now, though,
Correct.
right? I mean, we don't have a letter from DEQ. We have an easement request.
Well, they don't know, they want to check it and see if it's leaking, possibly it could have leaked into the river, then we're gonna be up the river.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
We're gonna be up the river, the DEQ.
And who gets to pay for it? Not me or you, but the taxpayers.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor made by Ms. Willis. Do we have a second on the floor to table this for further
Well-
evaluate?
Is that what her motion was?
Is that your
My
motion?
motion was to table it till next month.
Okay, okay. I wasn't-
For our council
I'll
to
second
see,
it.
to study it out, check it
Yeah,
out.
I agree.
I'll
Okay,
second.
and
Yeah.
Ron has seconded. We have a moving second on the floor to table this issue and have council to do further study, as well as Mr. Barton to notify them that we want more time. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Any opposed?
Thank you, Bud.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Phillips. Number 11, personal property assessment ratio for 2022, and we have our Commissioner of Revenue to speak for us here.
Actually, it's all right. I have, it's got me, but I've got people with me who know what they're talking about,
Okay.
know what they're doing. And we normally sit pretty close together anyway, if it's all right. Jamie, wait just a minute, let me change seats. This is.
Mr. John Wayne rides with me sometimes.
Sir?
John Wayne rides with me sometimes.
Well,
There's a story behind that.
There's a story behind that.
Commissioner are great friends, and we share lots of things together. And one of our loves is John Wayne. Not many people know that. And his office was a poster of John Wayne for a movie that he did. I don't know if y'all knew that in his office. Well, I'm in possession of that poster now.
Ah.
So, he donated to me, and I have great gratitude. I thank you.
You like to tell how that poster came in my possession, you remember the story?
It may be for another day.
Well, it's a good story, so.
Yes, it is.
Something about Marines? No, nothing.
Oh, heavens, no, that's a good story. I guess what we're here tonight, we 2020, what we noticed something that had started to occur, and was used car values. We look at these things monthly. We get reports from Thomson Reuters, and they tell us different things that are occurring. One was used car values were beginning to increase instead of decline. And so trying to figure out what caused that, it became obvious that we had shut down the national economy. So new cars were becoming unavailable. People were having to rely heavily on a used car market, which pushed used car values up. And along in that time, we started to watch it closely. And I begun to discuss with Larry, even back last year, that what I thought was going to happen. And most of that came from information that I obtained from my office staff. So we started to monitor this. And then I'm sure most of you, just like us, we suddenly started to receive unsolicited letters in the mail to buy my 2015 model Chevrolet pickup truck with 98,000 miles on it, offering me more money than what I paid for it when it was new, which is ridiculous. But we're probably worse off now than we were then. Our values are determined as of January the 1st of this year, 2022. Since that time, we've continued to monitor as we may, values have continued to increase. So it appears to me that these values are going to probably be even higher in 2022. Something really had to be done. I don't know of a single commissioner in the Commonwealth who's not been burdened with this, to the point that we've had numerous conversations. We've had numerous online meetings about ways to protect our citizens. Sometimes a comment would be made, well, it's not our fault. We didn't do this. I know I discussed that with her, and truly, and I've discussed that with supervisors as well. And it's not our fault that this happened, but we know it has happened, and if we don't do something to protect our citizenry, then it becomes our fault. It's a lot like the underground fuel storage tank. I really hate it, but sometimes we've got it. We've got this problem. And we need, I believe the authority exists within the code for the commissioner to make necessary adjustments. But what I would like to do is inform our board fully, and I want our citizens to also understand that we're proactive in this. We're trying to protect their interests as well. And they deserve to know that. So what we've done is studied and done a comparison on 2021 values and 2022 values. And what we used in this study are the same vehicles. We didn't bring in vehicles that weren't within our system last year. These our values are based on this same vehicles that we came up with. But we have in coming up with our total book value in 2021 for cars alone was $54,355,037. For 2022, that same class value is $77 million, in just over that, which is an enormous increase in our book value. We have older cars, and these older cars are kind of protected by this because they fall into a different class. Many of them actually have values that have fallen below the $1,000 mark anyway. And so our, for a lack of a better term, I'll call it the Gilmore tax credit, kind of takes care of those. Then we have a category that's called trucks, and this is trucks that are in the 10,000 pound or less value, and we found that those vehicles are disadvantaged in taxation. If we get into older trucks, motorcycles, older motorcycles, semi-tractors, semi-trailers, heavy trucks, intervest trucks, utility trailers, RV, and campers, most of those are valued with a depreciation schedule, just a standardized depreciation schedule for those categories. I know some of you have, the question has come up in one category, which is intervest trucks. And why they're there alone. These vehicles are specially equipped vehicles. They carry, each of them carries a certain amount of tools, communications equipment, and they're very specialized, and they're of such a quantity that it became necessary that we crafted an agreement, a method of assessment to assess these vehicles. When they go on the book, we assess them. If they go on new, we assess them in a certain fashion. If they go on used, we assess them in a certain fashion. Along with that vehicle value is there's also a machinery and tools value that it goes with it. But that's why those are listed separately in value, separately. But all of those categories, the recommended assessment ratio for those is at 100% because they have not undergone this huge price increase. But what I'm asking for tonight is consideration from the Board of Supervisors to allow an assessment ratio to determine actually what is a uniform pricing guide, what those values are, and then to allow us to use 73% of that value as the ratio for assessment on cars. And trucks, through the same study, is to allow us to use 83% of that assessment value in placing those, in determining the tax for each of those particular vehicles. We realize that there will be anomalies that occur. Deal with that. Some people are going to come in and say, my vehicle is taxed higher this year than it was last year. And I don't know, but that happens anyway. So we have to look at people's vehicles. We have to take into consideration what may have happened. And some people will come in and say, well, the fenders have fallen off on it. And that happens anyway. And I've got 500,000 miles on it. That happens anyway. We have to look at those things. But we cannot assess every car or every truck individually. The numbers are just too vast. So we have to do a mass assessment. And in that, we can get that done. We'll still have some particular issues from particular taxpayers. They'll require then particular attention that we can give that, but those numbers will be, there won't be significant numbers this small. So, but that's simply what I'm asking for, this board of supervisors, is for your concurrence to use these assessment ratios. And with that, if you have questions, like I said, I'll be glad to take the questions, and these ladies will be glad to give you answers.
Mr. Yates, let me ask a question right quick, make sure I understand. Those values for cars did not include new vehicles, is that correct? You pulled over only old vehicles?
Actually, they do. That is the book value.
So you're, in that category, you're considered new vehicles?
All vehicles. Now.
So if you bought a new vehicle last year, you're gonna get a 73% deduction on the personal property.
Well, it's a used vehicle now, though. What she's saying is if you bought a new vehicle last year, by the time it's assessed, it's a used vehicle.
By the time the new vehicle is assessed, it is actually 2 years old.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So that's how it's gonna level out.
A vehicle that was bought new in 2022 is not included in this.
It's not included in this study here.
The only things included in this are vehicles that were in the 2021, in our 2025.
I understand that. But let me ask you this, now, if I decide I wanna buy a new vehicle and you reduce the value of my vehicle, is that gonna hurt me when I go to the dealer to trade my vehicle in?
Well, they don't look at Dixie.
We're not gonna reduce the value. It's
Doesn't
just
reduce
gonna
the
be
value of the
taxed
vehicle
at
at all.
73%, instead of at 100%.
Well, you'd have to reduce the value of it.
No,
No, it's the ratio.
Yeah.
we're just gonna be taxed on 73%
It's similar to houses.
They
If you
don't pay
sell a
attention
house
to
for,
that.
You get an appreciation.
yeah,
It's just
but
gonna
when
be
you sell a
taxed at
house, it's assessed
73%
value, whatever
your value.
what sale value is.
When I saw that, I may be stupid, but when I saw that, I thought maybe that we'd have to reduce our rate, you know.
You can. If
Well, we
you
could.
choose that away.
Well, we've already set our rates, we voted on our rates, but I would think we could reduce them if we had
But
to.
once you reduce them, it's hard to raise them
If that
back
would
up.
be reduced on everything.
But this is a better way, you think,
Yeah, this
Mike?
is a better way.
This is a much better.
Yeah.
You know,
way to accomplish what
But
need
we
to
don't
do.
want people paying more taxes
Exactly.
just because the price of the
Inflation.
vehicles has gone crazy. Inflation, like Josh says, inflation's gone crazy. I mean, it,
I'll use mine as an example. From last year when we started noticing this, I have a 2019 Honda. January compared to July, it went up $8,000. That's just half the year. We still have another half of the year to go.
Which that's a good thing if you go to sell or trade, but not when you're paying taxes.
they're not gonna pay attention to that when you go to sell or trade.
Well, now let me ask one more question.
Just go back and forth to work.
When you look at the value of the prior year and this year, can you not reduce it by, say, 20%? That value that was on there from last year, can you not reduce the new value by 20% and come up with basically the same figure?
That's exactly
That's
what,
what
that's
that's
what
what
we're
we
asking to do.
The ratio, right.
That's
So
what
you're
we're-
gonna have to go into each individual
No.
one and do it?
No, we actually have determined a way to accomplish, by instead of reducing each vehicle, but it does reduce each vehicle. We take the value at 100% right now. We take that
Yeah, I know
value.
that.
But
but
you're
only-
gonna take,
If it's a $10,000 vehicle,
It's
the
taxed
tax
at
rate's only
10,000.
gonna apply to $7,300 for that car.
gotcha.
And that cures the inflated prices for now.
I'm gonna probably reveal this to most of you, but I took the people in this building last year when we first started, just the people in this building. And as I recall, it was like 100 and, I reported that, but
Calculated.
it's like 100 and maybe $53,000 that we saw, just in vehicle value here.
Just did
Board
it,
of
everybody.
Supervisors. Board of Supervisors. So I went even farther, I did that, I said, I'm gonna look at those five. I think the least value that anybody has is about $9,000 additional on the same vehicles. That's what concerns me so much about this. And, but it's gonna affect everything. The real problem I have is when I look at the United States tax law and determining what fair market value is. And this is determined in the United States versus Cartwright, and we've got legal lines over here. I can tell you what it is, but what it says is defined as the price at which a property would change hands between a willing buyer and a willing seller, neither being under any compulsion to buy or sell, and both having reasonable knowledge of all relevant facts. Most people don't have a clue what, and they really don't, and it's kind of difficult to understand what took place and why it took place. But what I see today is so many people, they're paying exorbitant prices for vehicles because they have to have something to get to work, and their old vehicle is given up. And so they're buying another old vehicle for way more than what they should because they have to go to work.
The bottom line to this is, do we want to help our citizens or not? And
That's all, I mean, that's
the bottom line.
Yeah, we do.
A ratio reduction helps with inflated used vehicle prices. This is the smartest, cleanest way to do it, and that's the bottom line. Other counties are not. Scott County's not doing it. They're getting $1.2 million more dollars in the revenue off the backs of their
Shame
citizens.
on them.
Well, that's right. So this is how we help our citizens, and that's the bottom line. And I see how we do it, and I agree with how you're doing it, and so I vote for it.
Josh, I only know of 4 localities that have not put forth a big effort to protect their citizens. Seriously, we every day, we get a report from the different localities. Scott County is one of them. Northern Virginia, I don't know.
So,
Yeah, they're in a different state anyway.
I mean,
But I mean, that's why you're here is to help the people. That's
all I
what
wanna
we're trying to do.
all I wanna do is try to keep our people.
so, Madam Chair, what do you need us to do a motion to approve this tonight?
It has to.
Both of them? Okay, so we need probably 2 motions, one for cars and one for
No,
trucks?
you just have the whole thing.
Or,
Go by your chart, right?
Ratio.
Let's say, I suggest that we have 2 brilliant minds at least here, and we have 3, well, I mean, legal minds, we have those. And I expect,
But you're brilliant.
numbers of minds, but however that we craft this, let's craft it to where our board of supervisors, and the code section that I would rely on that says that the commissioner may use, it gives him broad discretion. But however, I would like to have concurrence with the board of
So,
supervisors to do it here.
Sorry to interrupt you. So ordinarily, you don't need the concurrence on the ratio, but you're asking for that. Are we statutorily obligated to do that?
I
Based
think
on,
he is, but we aren't.
But I'm saying, this is not something we would need to approve annually, a rate change if it wants to go back up, once things level off, or if we want to take it even down lower if it keeps going up. The ratio's in your discretion, not ours, right?
You're gonna listen to your counsel, see what his position is.
I've not looked at that statute dealing with that specifically, but to me, if you all sign off, say, hey, this is what it's supposed to be, we're in agreement with this, I would think it would probably need to come back to you all before it was altered.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we've never done this before, not since
Correct.
I've been on here, so we didn't vote last year to say it was 100.
No, not in 14 years I've been here.
Not because we don't offer it, you all set the rate.
So the-
See, that would change.
So the crux of my question is, you could reduce it to 73 without our concurrence, but you're asking for our concurrence.
I think it's important for your concurrence because obviously your budget is based on that, so you need
Right.
to know
But I'm saying
exactly.
he could do it though without it though,
Right.
technically.
We done that.
I do concur, but he don't have to have our concurrence.
He does he has the right to value the vehicles or what he wants to value them at.
I
So,
mean,
Madam Chair, I'm gonna make a
but then,
motion.
but set this ratio though would change everything, so.
When we look at our budget, and yes, just let me, and if it's okay, 35033 says that the commissioner may use all applicable adjustments in such guide to determine the value of each individual automobile, or alternatively, if the commissioner does not utilize all applicable adjustments in valuing each automobile, he'll use the base value specified in such guide, which may be either average retail, wholesale, or loan value, so long as uniformly applied within classifications of property. So it goes on to say that if such percentage or percentages of original cost do not accurately reflect fair market value, or if the taxpayer does not supply proof of original cost, then the commission may select another method which establishes fair market value. And what I believe to be the best solution for us is to assess these two categories as cars and trucks. Cars at 73% of their determined value, and trucks at 83%. And that value is reflected in a uniform pricing.
So, Madam Chair, I'm gonna make a motion.
If I might, please, Madam Chair, if I could ask a question.
Go ahead.
So statutorily, you have a right to determine the value of those vehicles.
Yes, sir.
Now, the next question I have, once you establish the statutory value of those vehicles, does it change the rate in which they're taxed by, does it change the rate?
Does it change the rate?
No, we set the rate.
I know, so the rate, does the rate change?
No, sir.
Rate stays the same.
But the ratio is changing.
Right, that's the reason we've
Now,
done
the
this,
next
so we
question
wouldn't have to
is, to
change
follow up
this.
on council's question is your budget, county administrator, predicated on the value of the vehicles that have been set prior to any changes in assessment value?
No, I'd work closely with Mr. Yates, and I used his values that he's presenting tonight to do the budget with.
No, well, not his values, his ratio
His ratio.
to the values.
Correct,
We're
yes.
not changing the values.
Yeah, the assessment
We're
ratio.
not changing the rate. All we're changing is the ratio that's used to accumulate,
Determine the
to
value
get
of
the
the
dollar
vehicle.
amount that we get back.
We're changing the assessment
There would
ratio.
be no need to do a new budget advertisement.
No, 'cause the rate's not
No.
changing.
In your budget.
No, that's correct.
Well, then, the issue here is, I think unilaterally, in my opinion, as your of council, that he has the unilateral authority, statutory authority to make the changes based on his discretion and the facts and information that he's been able to delineate tonight. I think he has that.
Well, yeah, that's what we've established, but, and that's what I was getting at is
Well,
you
I
don't
think
even
we need to vote
necessarily
on it.
need our vote and support in this.
No, I don't.
But I
think so
don't blame
either.
you for asking for
We'll
it,
get it.
and I agree with it. But I'm saying legally, and that was my question to you, is we don't even need,
We don't, but this is an opportunity for
Yeah,
us
no, I
to
agree.
together, working together, that we understand the situation.
Politics, Josh.
but I'm for it. I'm all for it.
Let's vote yes and make the.
So if I can
for
make
it.
my motion,
I'm for it, but
try
we
for the
don't
third
need to
time.
vote on it. It's your, you have the authority to do
What I'm
it.
asking for is concurrence.
is a resolution of support, basically, right? I mean, that's,
That's what I'm asking.
all right, so I'm making a motion, if I may, finally, that, and I'm gonna do two motions, that we resolve to agree with Commissioner Revenue in his ratio adjustment to assess and impose taxation on used cars or cars at a ratio of 73% of their value. That's my motion.
In the truck.
Well, I'm gonna, but he
He's gonna
wants
do
a
separate.
different rate on the truck. I'm gonna do two
Yeah,
different motions.
That's why I said two
And
motions.
is it
And you were right about that.
Yeah.
But
And
I,
is it for this year, or is it for?
This is for
until-
this
I think we probably should do it for this,
We will
Tax
have
year.
to address
Madam Chair, so-
as
Correct.
we watch go on this year.
so Madam Chair, I will preface or amend that to be for this, for fiscal year 22-23.
Does that meet
I'll
your-
second.
Does that meet your?
Absolutely.
I'll second it, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have moving second on the floor for Josh's motion to allow and go with the 73% for the tax year 22-23 on the value of collecting tax, right? Basically narrowed down, short version of what he said. All in favor, please say aye. Aye as well.
Madam Chair, I've got a second motion.
Yes.
We didn't have no discussion on that.
Well, I thought we did for like an hour.
Well, we did, but after a motion and a second, why did we not just do a motion to do his 221 and 22 comparisons? A resolution to do his comparison, and it covers everything.
But I think what he was asking for us to support his ratio.
Only two things.
For the cars and then the trucks, I guess, which
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
gonna be
Yeah,
the
that's
next.
why I
Yeah.
asked two motions.
Then you were right.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't
No, I
catch it,
know.
but you were 100% right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make, Madam Chair, if I may, a second motion that this board resolve to agree with the Commissioner of Revenue's ratio of 83% of value for his assessment on trucks in Dickinson County.
I'll second
Personal
it.
property trucks,
10,000 pounds or less.
10,000 pounds or less for fiscal year 22-23.
Yes.
Does that meet your requirement?
It does.
Any comments?
Again, Madam Chair, to emphasize and maybe clarify, hopefully, and summarize, and not to say that Mr. Yates hasn't done enough of that, the purpose and intent of both Mr. Yates's office and I believe on our board is to alleviate the tax burden for our citizens due to inflated used vehicle prices that Mr. Yates adequately summarized to say that's nobody's fault. And really, it's not fair for a government entity to tax people increasingly because of inflated prices, and that's essentially it. I mean, we are doing this symbolically and, well, really, we're really putting money or keeping money into people's pockets by adjusting this rate. And I appreciate Larry and Mike's, they've done a lot of work, Mike's office on this. And it's not like they're getting a check in their pocket, but really, if you lived in Scott County, they're probably gonna be paying on a $20,000 vehicle, a couple $100 more than what they'll be paying in Dickinson County. So that's my motion, I'm sorry, or that.
Clarification. Okay, we have a moving second on the floor. If no other comments, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well.
I think Ron seconded.
Ron seconded.
Yeah.
Did you have another statement?
Thank you
You
for all
did
the
great.
work you guys have done.
All
I
of
mean,
you,
it's
you
not
did
been
great
easy, I'm
with
sure.
finding a pathway through this.
Yeah.
I can tell you, the senior citizens especially on fixed income, we're really gonna feel the impact on this if we didn't do nothing.
I was a young man, turned 18 years old. I joined the United States Marine Corps. I was really tired of people telling me what to do, so it made sense.
You got told more.
I learned to say, well, before I went, I'd learned to say, yes, sir, and no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Please, excuse me,
Thank you.
and thank you. In the Marine Corps, once we had accomplished something and it had gone well, we did this. Hoorah! Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You guys.
Not to keep kicking a dead horse, but Shelby is right. I mean, once this thing levels out,
Well,
and
see,
then we,
you're voting for
it could
22
get
and
confusing
23.
next year, the year after, possibly.
It will
when the
come
rate-
back.
I'm
It'll
saying,
come back.
but I think this is the only right thing to do here. I mean,
It's all
and I'm
what we
glad we
gotta
did
do
it.
right.
I'm glad, I appreciate you
He
again.
probably meant the budget year 22-23, not the physical year 22-23, right, Josh?
What's the same?
Yeah, fiscal year is gonna be fiscal
Yeah.
year 23, which spans 22-23, so.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say that I believe today that we're probably, the legislature is being faced with, I mean, they have problems that are almost insurmountable in how to deal with these things. I can pretty much guarantee you that next year at this time, this will have to be recrafted.
Well, that's,
Year following, it'll have to be reclaimed.
Well, I told my board last night at the meeting that because I had to go all over the country yesterday. I was busy getting that $4 a gallon gas out of my tank, so I had room for the $10 a gallon gas.
But I doubt seriously that there's ever such a thing again as back to normal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
This
you,
part,
Mike.
you, guys.
this part won't
You did.
help Potter's truck. I think he has it tagged for overweight.
We saw vehicles that had not been on the tax roll in years. Because of the Gilmore tax credit gained sufficient value this year to go back on.
Ain't that crazy? So that guy's gonna get a tax, a bill that he's not had in 5 years.
So we're trying.
And I'm gonna make him call Peggy, or call me.
We got tax season all year round, so.
I'm gonna let him call Bud, tell him to call Bud.
We're still working some people coming in.
But you have to do it on a case by case. Thank you all.
Thank you all, appreciate it. Okay, moving on to item number 12. We have a B, and C under Industrial Development Authority, and I believe I will ask Mr. Phillips if he wants to take charge of that, our discussion on these, on the physical agent. And we probably need to vote individually.
Physical
We have a
agent,
fiscal agent agreement,
that's the one.
and I handed out a
we got
updated
new
copy.
one.
There was a change from last night's meeting
I
at
got two.
IDA.
Did you mean to give me two?
Probably just a mistake. so.
Madam Chair, I was having, I say it also, I'm the chair, but having a nightmare, and Shelby suggested I would need to go back to General Assembly. And I was,
And get us a budget.
I was catching, to go back and I was just having a nightmare.
That's okay.
Which
You
one are we on?
It was
The
good.
fiscal agent agreement.
Physical agent agreement.
I have, we should have a fiscal agent agreement between Dickinson County, Board of Supervisors and Dickinson County, Industrial Development Board. The last night, the Industrial Development Board approved the agreement, as it exists in front of you today. And, this agreement came about as a result of the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors requesting the opportunity to provide resources, manpower, and expertise to the IDA to be a physical agent for the financial component of what they do as an IDA. And this agreement outlines the duties and responsibilities of all the parties, including the county. And this agreement, I think, sets the authority up with an opportunity to make sure when the county does, in fact, in concurrence with the IDA, hire a director, that the physical agent responsibility will take the bookkeeping, the financial burden off of the IDA and put it squarely in the fold and responsibility of the Board of Supervisors. And your county administrator has basically taken over that role to some extent. He's preparing a lot of documents, a lot of process and procedure, and he's improving. I can see every day that your county administrator at work, making sure that there are due diligence, that due diligence has been taken and given to make sure that the finances and the books and accounts and fiscal responsibility the IDA has is being fulfilled, carried out, and done properly. So it's a good thing that you've done, in my opinion, for not only IDA, but for the citizens of the county and the Board of Supervisors. And I defer to my county administrator if he has any comments or questions.
No, Mr. Phillips, I feel like you've done a good job explaining this, and I will add, at the meeting, at the IDA meeting last night, they had approved both of our requests for auditors, so we will be having the IDA audit conducted soon, and then once we get that, we'll be able to actually pick up their stuff. Right now, of course, we're paying on county funds, and they will reimburse us once the audit's complete, and then everything will kind of kick in on this fiscal agent agreement. So we'll answer any questions you have on this, but otherwise, we're just looking for a motion to approve.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the fiscal agent agreement as presented.
It's the one that's presented tonight, not the one in our book.
Yes, ma'am.
That's correct, the one that,
That's presented to us
There's a
tonight.
minor change on the bank reconciliation review.
That's correct, that's my motion.
I'll second his motion.
Okay, we have, let me see one thing here.
it's the revised,
It's a corrected one.
Corrected.
There's
Yeah.
some typing errors in the one.
county administrator provided tonight, as soon as on your desk.
Does this physical agent agreement ends when a, economic director is hired?
No.
Okay.
No, ma'am, part of that, it's important to shelter them from that responsibility, and this agreement will renew automatically each year in
Okay.
one-year terms
Well, it
unless
says that.
either party gives a 90-day notice of the intent not to renew.
That's right, I remember reading that now. I remember reading the 90-day thing. Okay, we have a moving second on the floor. Are there any other discussion?
Well, just a little, I have just a little question for, it said that the ownership and the use of funds, at all times during the term of this agreement, the IDA shall continue to possess ownership and the final authority concerning the use of all the funds in the possession of the IDA,
It's their funds.
whether such funds
They have
were.
bank accounts,
Yeah, it's their
funds in
funds.
them, that they didn't know that they had.
I know, yeah.
But
They
we
don't
are,
know how much they have actually got.
but
The county
we are
administrator
gonna
makes
take
sure
care
they
of
know.
the
So when does the
bookkeeping.
audit take place?
But very soon, it was just approved last night, so I'm thinking in the next couple of months, we should have that concluded, so.
And who will be
They have
doing
certain
it?
rents and profits that come into the
The
IDA
Cox
directed by
Farm.
contracts and agreements. So there is a funding stream that does go to the IDA that is not the property and money of the county. But obviously, if there's property and money in their accounts that can be used for industrial development authority, you have a right to suggest that these funds, they would have to take the appropriate steps to utilize those funds for whatever it is that you wish them to recommend. They have accounts and have funds that come in separately from our funds.
Right.
We're not giving them to them. Those funds come from leases, rents, contracts, any kind of funds that they have coming in from rental of this building, for example, goes to them. Anything else, Mr. County Administrator? you'd like to-
That covers most of the revenues that come in. Yes.
So they maintain those funds and keep them their own.
Any other comments?
So right now Larry's taking care of that, right?
He's
Correct.
helping manage those, yes.
And the economic director will, no, it'll still be Larry.
It'll still
huh?
be Mr. Barton's.
Okay, that's all I've got.
Larry is not writing checks out of their money to pay their bills presently. He's paying the IDA bills out of the county operating money until this audit, and then when this audit is
And then they'll
done,
start paying.
they will write us back a check for all these bills that we have paid. Then those bills will start being paid from their account,
Okay.
correct?
Correct, yes, ma'am, but we will still be paying the bills
Yeah.
under this agreement for them, but using their account and their
But
funds
using
to do
their
it.
account, right.
Yes.
Okay, good.
We have a moving second on the floor. If no other comment, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And I as well. B, on to you, Mr. Phillips, for Economic Development Director job description.
Okay, the job description, is, I assume it's the one, Mr. County Administrator, that's in there.
It's the
It's
loose
one he
one.
handed out today.
Again, we had a change from the meeting last night, and we'll point that out.
And I, give you the major corrections on page 8 of 8. Eligibility of employment, that paragraph, that in my copy I have, that copy, their copy has it.
Yes, it's all yellow, but it's deleted, showing it to be deleted. Instead, it's supposed to be in a red line, but Mr. Mellon sent me this, it's in yellow, but that paragraph's coming out because the successful, or the candidate that applied would have to, there's a provision in here to allow for bonding, and so that would cover that.
Okay.
And so this, that's the only change that I know, but there's a bonding provision, the administrator says it has to be bonded because it can use it for funds, collecting funds, those kind of things. So it's probably superfluous, and needs to come out. And so I would recommend
Okay.
There's only one typographical error on page 8, the last sentence, after successful completion, the word completion was omitted, so we corrected that as well, so.
Make a motion that we accept the job description for the economic director for Dickinson County
I'll second it.
As amended.
as
As
amended.
amended, I'll accept.
That's
I'll
before us
second
and has been amended.
Only discussion I would add is that we get it advertised immediately, as in tomorrow.
We do have an advertisement drafted and pretty well ready to go on that.
Okay.
And
And-
for disposal notes, I can talk about the job description. Move the motion.
We have a move and second on the floor. If no other comments, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Okay, Mr. Phillips,
Let me talk about the job description that Mr. Evans brought up. I did a rough draft of it and put it together, and it's been reviewed by the IDA attorney, and it's ready. It doesn't require approval, but it is ready to be utilized as the county administrator sees fit, and assume that he moves with post haste. Go ahead and make the advertisement available and send it out for.
How are we gonna advertise?
Mr. Peters, we're going to advertise, of course, on our website, in the local papers as well, but we are doing some statewide advertisements through some of our publications.
We're probably gonna have to reach far.
Madam Chair, if I may go, we got one additional, the plan.
Yeah.
What's the agenda item on that one?
Economic development.
Planning.
The economic development plan has had a few additions and revisions and clarifications, and they start actually on page 22, 23, and 24 are the actual meat of the additions. And basically what these paragraphs do is set out the process and procedure in terms of how economic development projects are suggested. Hopefully, for example, each board member has a right to submit their projects for evaluation. Each IDA member, businesses, and industry also has a right to submit. State of Virginia can also submit, for example. The second provision allows the county administrator, along with the director of economic development, to determine the goals and objectives to be selected for implementation and how they can move those around or select those and better serve the county's interests. There's one typographical error on page 24. The last paragraph, which says 5 prospects will be reviewed out of these candidates that you're getting for director. There should be 3 prospective candidates.
Correct.
That's the only corrections there. I recommend that you go ahead and approve within.
Madam Chair, I make a motion we approve the plan.
Amendments.
With the amendment, thank you.
I'll second his motion.
We have a motion and second to approve the economic development plan with the amendments or the corrections that has been made in this. Are there any other comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well.
And Madam Chair, to give you a privilege of maybe speaking just
Yes.
a couple minutes.
Yes.
The next thing that is on the horizon for our development for you is a potential new county seal and a marketing, what is it?
Video.
Rebranding.
You're gonna do a video, aren't you?
It's called a marketing branding. You don't have any branding, and branding basically is a fancy economic development term thing that you have to have a image or vision of what you think this county is. And you have to be able to convey to the public and people outside about what you feel about it. In just 1 or 2 words, a sentence, that's what is the value of this county and why they need to come to the county for jobs and development. That's called a branding. And I basically have got a seal prototype already developed that we'll submit to you for your analysis and eventual approval, and also a branding material as well. And so that's under development. And so that would pretty much conclude, at that point, everything that you have to move forward, and the IDA and the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors then will pick the objectives and goals that you want to pursue. And I sent you a suggestion of something you want to consider, and how you wish to proceed first to get those done. And for example, short term would be a marketing video and a marketing brochure, and you use your branding material at the beginning and throughout the material that you develop. So another example would be, for example, the green lot revenue, maybe an example, something you may want to pursue as a goal in Glenwood to develop that. And it's in that suggestion that I sent to you, and the town of Hayside, maybe to help them with their project. But if you permit me just one courtesy, and let me make just an overall statement. I want to particularly thank this board for having enough confidence in me to ask me to come back and to help you and the county to totally, actually revamp your economic development division. And what you've done tonight, and I say this with all sincerity, what you've done tonight may not necessarily be known or appreciated by your citizens, but this is what I would call a watershed moment in economic development in Dickinson County. You totally redirected, updated, and have in place an opportunity to deliver economic development to the citizens of Dickinson County. It gives you a plan with specific goals and specific objectives. It gives you an opportunity to measure whether or not you have met those goals and objectives. There's also responsibility for oversight, and as well as monitoring to make sure that the goals and objectives are being obtained. If you basically, in my opinion, had to start from ground zero and revamp and rework and get a totally new economic development. And I think that's what your citizens wanted. I think that's what you wanted, the change that you brought about, where the citizens will be confident that there would be an opportunity to create new jobs, to create a county that all of us can be proud of in terms of creating jobs and economic development for our citizens. And the essence of this plan and everything that you've done, everything that you've approved, now depends upon its implementation. I think you have, in my opinion, a plan that will work, in my opinion, a plan that will bring jobs and economic development. But jobs and economic development doesn't come overnight. It's not easy to create an economic development plan and team and expect it to have overnight success. I think the county and the IDA is both poised to work together to create jobs and economic development. And the last thing I would say is last night at we were here until about 10:30. One of the things that I commended them on is I think they have totally, in my opinion, at this point, bought in totally to the new economic development plan. And they're willing to work cooperatively with you and you them to ensure that this plan gets a chance to be implemented and be successful. So again, I really thank each of you for having confidence in me to come and do this. And I would have to say that when I started, and I may have been naive in a sense, but there is no other plan like this. When I started, I thought there would be resources. I thought there'd be other plans that existed throughout the region that would be available that I could look and maybe cut and paste and do those kind of things. That's common. But there wasn't no cut and pasting. Then what you see is from your resources, the county administrator and myself, and the help that we get from you and the board, it's totally your project, totally your product. And I think it's one of the most unique opportunities in Southwest Virginia to create jobs. So thank you again for allowing me to come, Ms. Shelby,
Thank you.
Ms. Fonda, and Madam Chair, and Mr. Peters, and Mr. Evans for allowing me to help you.
Thank you for all that you did.
I thank you for the 15, 16 months that you was the attorney, that you not only represented us legally, but you listened, you watched, you observed what this county needed, and put that effort down on paper to move us forward. I mean, you did a lot more than just the attorney. You listened, and you're helping put us on the road. And I just don't know that thank you is really big enough.
Well, this
But I
board-
do thank you.
This board has done something no other board's ever done in the history of this county. It's what we have in front of. No
Right.
board has ever done this before.
Right.
And I think that's a watershed. What that means is it's a sea change
Yeah.
in terms of economic development. But economic development can never come too quick. And I know citizens are sometimes skeptical, and sometimes they need to be skeptical of local government and how it acts. And I would encourage every citizen that's listening, or every citizen that's an opportunity, these documents are going to be on the website. They can go and look and inspect and ask questions and view what's there. So it's a plan, it's their plan. It's the county's plan, but it's a citizen's plan as well.
Right. Appreciate it.
And I want to thank the county administrator, obviously, for his help, support, and guidance, and he's been a vital part of this as well.
Yes, yeah, he has.
Thank you, Bud. Maybe you should
Thank you.
copyright this.
He should. If there's not another plan in the
Okay.
state of Virginia.
I guess we're moving on to item number 13, which is the use of the former Clintwood football field property.
Madam Chair, if I could explain that. I was contacted by Mayor Lambert after their last town council meeting in the town of Clintwood, and they'd been approached by the Historical Society about the possibility of using the downstairs of the field house building to relocate to. That would give them more room and make it more accessible for those that may be handicapped or whatever, to be able to walk through the building to view the displays that they have and to attend the functions that they have there. And the town council was fine with allowing them to do that, but their legal counsel had a concern with the deed that's in your packet from 2016 when the property was transferred to them. There's a clause in there that says that property must be used for recreational purposes. Of course, this is the same property where we're constructing the splash pad, and the town's going to be building the tennis courts, basketball courts, and then future developments with that. But they just wanted to make sure that they had the blessing of the Board of Supervisors to allow the Historical Society to use that part of the building because of the provision in this deed.
Do we need to change the lease, amend it in some way, or?
It's not a lease, it's a deed, they own it.
Well, deed, or
And
amend.
what the deed says is if it
Oh, I know
ceases
what
to
it
be
says.
used for public recreational purposes.
Yeah,
And so if it's still being used for recreational purposes, but there's also something else.
I just wanted to make sure, because
It's
I
fine.
know in,
So I think what, they probably just needs a letter from you indicating we don't
Exactly.
object.
We don't object to them allowing the Historical Society to use that, so.
Madam Chair, go ahead, Ron.
what I was gonna say was that when we approved this, my intent was it's strictly public use.
Right.
Anyways, that's what we were.
Nothing for profit or anything
So,
like that.
but yeah, a letter, if that's good enough, that's what my question was basically.
Madam Chair, I make a
I would
motion
like
that,
to make the motion, Mr. Evans, you
Sure,
can make
go
the
ahead.
motion. But I would like to add to it that at this time, until we find them a better place to go, but I wouldn't do it permanently, because actually it takes away from our deed that we wrote them. And I would say until we can find them a more appropriate place.
or do you want to obligate us to that, though?
Well,
That sort of says, I don't particularly want to word it that way. I think they're just saying and I would never speculate on what the town's asking, but I think they just want assurance that we're not going to fuss about it if they allow the Historical Society in the field house.
And
Well, I'm not.
I think
And
I
I
had it
believe,
on.
and I believe Mr. Sturgill said it was still it was basically still being used for recreation. This was just an
Correct.
addition.
Exactly.
Yeah,
There is some other question to this that I just thought of. What is different from what's going on right now? Because aren't they on some of that property right now?
No, nothing.
What's
I mean,
that?
not actually in the field house. They're.
No, but they're on
Field
some of the same
Yeah,
property that were
there,
part of this
Jason.
deed. I
I
think.
agree.
Yeah, so, but I'm okay with the motion. I just was gonna make.
Well, I would withdraw it, given,
so how is your motion gonna be, Mr. Evans?
I don't know that we even need one, frankly, but guess we probably do since we've gone that far, is that I would make a motion that Mr. Barton, on our behalf, indicate via correspondence to the council and mayor that we don't object to the Historical Society making use of the field house.
I'll second that motion.
But
And
we
that, I
don't-
don't think anything in that wording, of course,
We don't
Mr.
actually have to change the deed.
No,
No.
you don't have
No.
to change the date.
They're just
Right.
wanting to make sure we don't
Try to act on it,
Or-
to say
Well,
that
it's
they're in
not-
in
violation.
violation, right? So that's my motion, Madam
Yeah.
Chair.
I'll second your motion, Mr. Bishop.
I already did.
All right, sorry.
Okay, we have a moving second on the floor to send the Town of Clintwood Council and that we do not object for them letting the Historical Society use part of the field house building. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Okay, moving on down to number 14, which there's not anything in our packet for number 14 for request for proposal of reassessment.
I'll take that, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the board, as you recall, a couple months ago, you gave us authority to issue an RFP, a request for proposal for reassessment.
Yeah.
And, once the deadline approached on that, we didn't receive any responses to that, which was very unusual. We were very surprised by that. So what I did, I reached out to Mr. Sturgill and asked him, what's our next steps? What do we do in a case like that? And, Mr. Sturgill, if you want to explain, or I'll try to.
And I
Mr.
can
Sturgill
comment.
had informed me that his recommendation would be if the Commissioner's Office could reach out to some other local counties that have done reassessments in recent years and see who done those reassessments, and the Commissioner's Office could reach out to them and get the names of who done those, then reach out to those firms to see if they would have any interest in doing a reassessment for us here in Dickinson County, and at the same time to reach out to the folks, the Wampler Appraisals, that done the last appraisal for us here in the county to see if they would be interested, and if we had interest to that, to ask the board to allow us to do another RFP and to specifically target and send to these people in addition to our advertisement. And so the commissioner, they have reached out to those, but as of now, we don't have a response. That's why we wanted to put it in here, and we thought we'd have something back. So, at this point, until we get a response, I guess we're probably going to ask to table this for another month till we figure out which direction to go. Is that fair, Mr. Sturgill?
That is.
Mr. Yates, you're still waiting on?
And I think that's the appropriate action.
So we need to do a motion to table it for now.
Correct.
I'll make Madam Chair, I'll make a motion, we table the reassessment proposals for now, till we
Okay.
hear back.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a moving second to table the reassessment proposals. If no other comments, all in favor, please say aye. Aye as well. Moving on to item number 15, and before we advance to 15, I know we have two 15As. One is for just a reappointment or what of or a person for a particular district, but we also have an at-large. And I would like to ask our attorney to give us guidance on the order of placements or what for
Okay.
that.
As far as nominations, under Robert's Rules of Order, recognition by the chair is not required to make a nomination. Nominations do not have to be seconded, but they can be seconded. And nominations are voted on in the order that, in which they were nominated. So, that's kind of the overview of nominations from Robert's Rules of Order. Bill.
Okay. Okay, I think our first one on here is for the Kennedy District. If Ms. Willis would like to take care of that, because her appointment, Ginger Center's term expires this month.
I would like to reappoint Miss Ginger Centers for another term.
I'll second if it's necessary.
It wasn't necessary.
It's not necessary, but you can.
I'll leave it up to Madam Chair and however y'all want to do it, but I'll second it
Okay.
if necessary. If not, I'm obviously voting yes.
We have a motion and second on the floor for Ms. Willis to reappoint Ginger Center to the IDA Authority Board for the Kennedy District. All in favor, please say aye. Aye as well. And then our addition that was added to our agenda is Shane Hillman is an at-large appointment, and he has resigned. And from here, we need, if there's names.
I
for-
want to make a nomination.
Okay,
I'd like to nominate Ben McFall.
okay.
He's willing to do it?
I talked to him just before I came here, and he said he would.
Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate Chris Stanley.
Okay.
Who is that?
Who is Christine?
I think he lives in the Darwin area.
I know
and
one
is-
Chris Stanley.
Chris Stanley.
Yeah, that's the
Robert
one.
I think
Stanley,
so, too.
Chris Fitzdarwin.
Yeah.
So how are we doing this, Madam Chair?
Probably, all I know is,
Take all nominations, and then,
Okay.
once all nominations have ceased, then you will vote on the nominations in the
Okay.
order that they were nominated.
Well, I hadn't heard Mr. McFall's name. He would
Neither
be
had I.
excellent, but I do have a name I'm going to submit in the nomination, and I asked him to come tonight, and I appreciate him sitting here all night. Mr. Bobby Edwards, the Chief of Police for the town of Hayside. Bobby is an extremely intelligent fella. He follows all of our meetings. He's very interested in the county. He's very astute at finding grant money. If you've seen the fleet of vehicles the town of Hayside has, that's not a coincidence or a mistake or an accident. That's mainly due, and it's, I guess, the council and mayor as well, but mainly due to Bobby sniffing out money for the town and for his department. And I think Bobby would be an excellent member on the IDA and someone who would attend the meetings regularly and give it his full attention. Bobby, Madam Chair, if I may, Bob, do you want to say something about your interest, or? I appreciate you coming.
I appreciate you allowing me to be here. I really have an interest in the county moving forward, and I believe I can be an asset to it. I can't promise you I can find grants for it, but I'll be looking. And I have probably more grant experience than the majority of the people would. Still go ahead and do grant reviews for the state, for the Department of Emergency Management. Like I said, the only thing I can do say is I'll be at the meeting, so I'll just give it my best effort.
Well, Bobby, I appreciate you, and I know if you all have not met, I'm sure most of you have, but he is really a smart guy and somebody, and the reason I'm nominating Bobby is for what I've already said, but I know he'll give it his full attention, and I think that given the economic development plan we've adopted, the job description, we need somebody that's going to give it their full attention. That's not to say anybody else wouldn't, but I know Bobby will, and that's my rationale. So.
Well, I don't know Mr. Edwards, and I have no objection to him, but I do know Ben McFall. He's one of the biggest employers here in this county, and he's only the two young men I know that had their house built before they got married, and that was Ben McFall and Shannon Mullins. And he's what I've seen Ben since he started out and very small. His dad started the business, and I've seen he's very easy to work with. He's very accommodating in our community, and he's done many projects, not only here in this county but throughout the county. I have no objection to Mr. Edwards. I don't know you that well, but I'm sure what Josh has said about you is true. But I do have to. I did ask Ben before I came here because I had considered several people, and I think Ben would be an asset to the IDA board.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question of council?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill, as far as Mr. McFall does work for the IDA, sometimes with his company, he's one of the bidders that does work. I mean, is there any potential issue with that, or could he just
recuse or something?
Recuse
It
himself
would
from
be
the
same
vote?
as Eric Price was on there, and he had to excuse himself from several different things.
Yeah, he'd have to.
If they're
be mindful of
voting
that.
on awarding a contract or something, then they should vote on that.
Correct.
Good question, Larry.
Hey, Bobby, you're the one that signs assistant to the emergency management, right?
I've never been
Oh, okay.
deemed that, so to speak, but
You just help with.
I have helped them, and I've wrote most of the grant. Actually, I think I've wrote almost every grant that you all awarded. And when it comes to actual, like your bigger grants through the BDM, and then I've actually, started an EMS agency from the ground up. I had my own business and started it from the ground up as well, and prior to being with ASI, so,
Okay, thank you, Bob.
no problem.
And I'll ask council, or just a comment to council, and it has nothing against, Mr. Edwards, and it has nothing against the mayor of the town of Hayside, but the mayor is his boss at the town, and then he's the director, or the chair, not director, but the chair on the IDA. Would there be any kind of employer conflict or anything with that?
We'd just be serving together, I don't think so.
No,
Okay.
not under that, but
Okay.
obviously, you know, if certain situations arise, you have to make, but under that scenario, no.
Right, okay. Just had to separate that when he's serving on the IDA, he's not serving as an employee to.
Correct.
Yeah, okay,
And obviously, there's no quid pro quo,
Right.
nothing like that as far as
Okay.
that goes.
okay, are there any other nomination names to be listed?
No, it ceased, didn't it?
I'll
I
do-
thought
Well,
somebody made a
I guess
motion.
I got a general comment. It's very important that we pick a team here that can change what I consider the mainstay of the county has been to take care of yourselves or hire your friends, and we need to get a group that's gonna work and keep focused on county interests and drive things forward and get us something for the benefit of our community.
Can you read how this is gonna work again? So,
Basically, as far as nominations under Robert's Rules of Order, you go in the order that the
Of the
nominations.
nominations.
Correct.
so it
Now,
makes
who made
somebody
the
back to
motion
vote
that
no
we
if they would,
cease the
if they want
nomination
their
of
guy.
the chair?
I hadn't heard it.
So that makes
I thought
sense.
somebody
does.
said that, we ceased
Did
nomination.
somebody make a motion to cease
I didn't.
nomination?
No, I
Not
didn't.
yet.
Nobody had.
Oh, God, I thought I heard that.
Okay.
Well, I, go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
No, I
was
wasn't gonna make, I was just gonna say, it makes it very uncomfortable, when the person that you wanted is not nominated first, so then you're gonna have to either vote no or yes on somebody you like. I mean, I just wanna say before all this vote's out, I just wanna appreciate Mr. Edwards. If y'all don't know him, y'all need to get to know him, whether he's on the IDA or not. He's a really smart guy and knows everything about what's going on in Hayside and does a lot of good stuff down there. So, like I said, whether he serves or not, that's somebody we all need to,
Bobby, you
Get
work
to know.
now as what, town police?
he can be a major asset for us.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we need a motion to cease nominations, right? Yes.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion, we cease nominations.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Rhonda, I'll put your name down. We have a move and second to cease nominations for the at-large appointment for the IDA. All in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye as well. Okay, our first name that was put on the list is Ben McFall.
Madam Chair, will you read all the names that was nominated?
Ben McFall, Chris Stanley, and Bobby Edwards.
Okay.
Ben
Let me-
McFall is probably in the Clintwood district,
Yeah, he is.
and Chris Stanley lives in Darwin, so I'm assuming he's
He's
in
my
the,
district.
in the Kennedy district.
That has nothing to do with the
Right,
large.
right.
Large.
And then Bobby probably Sandley, right?
That's
I
correct.
know. I guess a motion and a second for,
Well, no, I guess you need
No, it's just a.
just call for roll call vote?
Call for a vote.
Okay. Roll call vote for the first person on the list is Ben McFall. Miss Willis, how do you vote?
I'm gonna say this, that it's gonna be, if you nominate somebody for this, this requires a lot of time. It requires various hours during the daytime. Their meeting sometimes has to come to our budget workshops. They have to be with us at times of a night. It requires different hours of the day. So people that work need to consider this if they hold down a job.
point.
I agree totally.
I agree, and I would assume all three work.
Well, Ben is the supervisor, he is the owner, he
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
work.
And Bobby's the chief, he's pretty flexible, but I guess there is, but I don't know. That's a good point. I agree, that's an excellent point. And that's what I think we all want, whoever it may be, is somebody that's gonna give it their full attention. And that's what.
And that's why Shane had to leave,
But
is
that's
he
why
interfered with his work of a night, cause he's a funeral director.
That was my main, frankly, reason for Mr. Edwards, is I know that he'll do
And Shane did a good
that.
job while he's here.
Yeah, Shane was an excellent board member.
He was
did a good
excellent
job.
board member.
Yeah, he was
I
good.
hated to see him go.
May I pass?
You paid.
I
Okay,
pass, right now.
Well, next time we'll vote for the one I nominated.
So what?
Huh?
I pass.
Shelby passed.
No, I
I
didn't
called on
abstain, I
her first.
passed.
I didn't know you could pay.
You have to come back to
I
me.
know.
I know.
Okay.
I'll vote for Ben.
vote or abstain.
I'd be silly if to
She
vote.
has to come back to me if I pass.
Okay.
Is that the rule?
I mean, generally, it's a roll call vote and it's just in the
Well, I'm
general,
gonna have to vote for Ben.
so I mean.
So are you voting or are you passing?
I'm voting for Ben McFall.
Okay, we have Ms. Willis, we have Ms. Sluss, Mr. Evans,
I'm gonna vote yes, I'm not voting no against Ben.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
and myself,
Mr.
yes.
Sturgill, may I ask one more question
Yes.
concerning me voting for Ben McFall?
Yes, ma'am.
He is my son's employer and has been for several years. So does that have any influence with my vote? That's the reason
Well,
I
I guess
passed,
it does,
to
but
see if, should I abstain?
I think that's a personal decision. I don't think you're required to abstain under that.
Okay, I'll vote for him.
As long as they're not in the same household.
Correct.
We're not in the same household,
but I also want to
only
make,
son.
Madam Chair, I want to say one thing. What Josh has said about Bobby Edwards is very impressive.
Yes, it is very impressive.
And I'm not kidding either, I mean, you
And I
all,
think that,
he's a major asset, can be a major
I have
asset
an
for us.
appointment soon. But the person I've asked is asked to wait for another month, but of course, I know that would be a Clintwood appointment, but I think
don't
you,
have to appoint them
you
out
don't
of
have to
your
appoint them from your district. I think what Josh said about you is very impressive,
I appreciate it.
and I think we can use you.
Yeah, I'm impressed with you.
I
Okay,
don't know how, but I think we do.
we have Mr.
Oh,
Ben
he's-
McFall that has
smart.
gotten all 5 votes on the appointment for the at-large to fill the unexpired term of Shane Hillman, which his term expires June of 2024. So he's got about 2 years to serve. Okay,
You know, that's one reason Chris, I would assume Chris is a young man, probably do an excellent job, but he probably holds down a job. And it would be hard for him to be here for daytime, various times that they have to be
Reese
here.
is a wonderful young man.
Yeah, he is, I know it.
okay. Moving on to B, the Cumberland Plateau Regional Housing Authority. We have a letter in our packet that Keith Byers, the executive director, has asked us to consider to reappoint him or,
It's Truman, isn't it?
yes, Truman Mullins is the person serving on that.
I'm gonna make a motion that we reappoint Truman. Truman does a good job with that. I talked to Truman lots of times, and he does a good job over there.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Is Truman, is he the one who used to be over at the DSS?
Uh-huh.
I didn't know he still lived in here in the county. He does? Where does he
Yes.
live?
Lives down Brush Creek, off of Brush Creek
Oh,
down
okay.
there.
Used to, okay.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it on Shelby's recommendation.
Truman's a good man.
Okay. Any other comment? Moving second on the floor to reappoint Truman Mullins to the Cumberland Plateau Regional Housing Authority. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye as
Aye.
well. Any
Sorry.
opposed? Josh?
No,
Aye.
I said I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I was slow.
That's okay. All right, we're down to item number 16, which is an ADA coordinator, and I will asked Mr. Barton, or I think these emails has been between him and Mr. Sturgill, one of those to do this.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
This came up, we became aware the sheriff was actually at a conference and had sent me some questions as far as who our ADA coordinator was and as far as our grievance policy for that. And so after talking with Mr. Sturgill, we are required by statute to have an ADA coordinator in the county, and it has to be an employee, like Mr. Sturgill is our FOIA officer, and he can as an independent contractor, but this has to be an employee. And I will go on to say that next month we will have a grievance procedure for the board's consideration for ADA complaints that we'll be bringing back. But this will be our first step, is asking to appoint an ADA coordinator for this role.
And it has to be an employee.
Has to be an
Has
employee.
anyone indicated that they would like to do that?
They have not, but it could be myself, or I think it could be an office staff member. It wouldn't necessarily have to be me. It could be.
I would have thought it had to be an employee, not a grievance procedure is if, I guess, you have to have a policy for grievance, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But I know what it is.
We'll be bringing one of them next month.
That's
Well,
correct.
could you expand on
I've
this?
done United Mine Workers for years, so I know what
And
a
what they are
grievance
is,
procedure is.
obviously, they're two separate things. The grievance policy for the ADA complaints details what happens if there is an ADA complaint that
Right.
comes to the county, and then also who the contact person is for that. Now, as a coordinator, they will have duties as far as what they're supposed to do. However, there's no question, I believe, that part of that would be to be working through legal counsel to make sure that they know exactly the rights, procedures, and where things fall as far as the policy goes.
Well, when I think of an employee, and I know Mr. Barton is an employee, I guess I think of a employee inside the building.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
I do. And generally, it would be an administrative employee.
It would be an administrator, okay.
Correct.
Well, I make a motion, we appoint Mr. Barton again. He
I appreciate
doesn't have
that.
enough to do.
That's all right.
We're gonna change your panel to everything.
Well, I mean, I agree with that, and I don't disagree, but I also had let Karen cross my mind. If she
That's what I
would
was
be,
thinking as well.
Yeah.
if she
Caroline's
may
already
be a
done it.
qualified.
And typically, with other agencies, that the HR person is generally the ADA coordinator.
And she's the
Okay.
HR.
She is HR.
I'll make a
Because
substitute.
those
Yeah.
go hand in hand.
I make
Oh,
a
well.
substitute motion that we appoint Ms. Fuller to that
I'll
role.
withdraw my motion, Mr.
So I'll make a
Evans.
primary motion that we put Ms. Fuller
I'll
in that role.
second it. Sorry.
You second.
That's all right. I'm just making my notes here.
I'm good with
All right, we have a
Yeah.
moving second on the floor to appoint Karen Fuller from the county board office. That is the HR person anyway, to be the ADA coordinator. All in favor, please say aye. Aye as well. Any opposed? Okay. And Larry, did you talk to her about that?
I have not,
Oh,
That'd be
okay.
fine.
but
Surprise,
I
surprise.
think she'll be fine. For the most part, it's not really going to entail
Right. It-
a lot,
Yeah,
for the
I
most
mean,
part.
So,
For the
Mr.
most part, it
Sturgill,
was-
you're gonna write the ADA.
Correct.
and that'll be on the agenda next month, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought that letter said.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to item number 17, Robinson Farmer Cox Associate, the engagement letter, Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Even though I have read these, but,
Thank you, Madam Chair. And what this is, of course, you all have already approved RFC to be our auditors, and you've actually approved the change based on the new GASB 87 that applies, that we brought back to you last month, I think. And on these letters, of course, we received one dated March and one has a May date. What we're asking is just for your approval of these, because it requires a governance signature, not just a management signature, so I can sign the management portion, but we will need your approval for the governance signature. And This letter actually gives the scope of the audit. It tells what they're going to do and what our responsibilities are for the auditors and what the auditors' responsibilities are. So we're just asking for approval of both letters, the March 25th and the May 17th, and giving permission for Madam Chair to sign
Madam
these.
Chair, I make a motion that we approve both letters.
Second.
All right, we have a move and second on the floor to approve both these letters for Robinson Farmer Cox and Associate on the explanation of their audits. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Moving on to number 18, which is the approval of the ordinance that we had the public hearing on at the beginning of our meeting. Do we?
Make a motion that we approve the ordinance for the continuity of the government.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a move and second on the floor to approve the ordinance to allow the continuity of government operations through a pandemic. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, aye as well. Now we're down to number 19, other business. Do we have any other business to come before the board? No one ever did call in or send a message or nothing like that online, did they? Okay. I guess we will move on from other business to scheduled public hearings at our June 28th board meeting. We need move and second on each one of these or all?
We will, please. And
Separately? Okay.
if I might add on, if I could explain a little bit on each one of these. With item A, the amended solid waste ordinance, we're asking to schedule a public hearing for that because we have recently had some issues with our ordinance and how that ties in with some DEQ ordinances when it comes to burning lumber, clean lumber, like from a home or something that's being demolished. Our policy currently doesn't allow that, and it's creating some problems within the county. So that's the main reason we want to
What are we
reconsider
gonna
this
change?
ordinance. Excuse me?
We're gonna first hear what the public says, but what are we thinking it should be?
We will.
To allow it.
To allow it
Okay.
as long as it's clean. It doesn't have tar or any other
Yeah.
materials like that on it, but to allow it is
You
what
may
we're-
wanna look at, there's also something in there about what you can put out in your front lawn as a trash receptacle too, and whether we wanna enforce
If we're
anything.
looking at, if it's pleasure of the board, we can definitely look at that while we're looking at the ordinance at the same time.
I'm not dictating which way, but if it's gonna be an ordinance, I'm a firm believer you should follow it and approve, and should enforce it.
Is that the sheriff's responsibility?
Not what they
Yeah.
Look back here, Doc.
I'm not saying we need to enforce that
We'll
particular
look at the
thing.
whole thing.
Do we need it in there if we're not gonna do it?
I make a motion that we amend that solid waste ordinance, public hearing for 5:35 at our next meeting.
A second?
I'll second if Rhonda.
Okay, Rhonda, I'll put you down. Shelby made the motion, Rhonda made the second to conduct our solid waste ordinance public hearing at 5:35. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye as well. Moving on to item B.
I
Item
make
B,
a
Madam Chair,
motion.
is Cable
wanted to
Plus
explain.
Incorporated, which is Mr. Eaton, Mr. Dave Eaton. They had reached out to us, and Mr. Sturgill has reviewed this agreement and recommended we go ahead and schedule that for a public hearing. And do you have any comments or anything?
I don't. That's just the process under the Code of Virginia that would take place in order to allow the franchise
To
agreement
do
to move
business.
forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
I make a motion, we schedule a public hearing
I'll
for Cable
second it.
Plus.
5:40.
Yeah, we have a motion and a move and second on the floor to schedule a public hearing with Cable Plus franchise agreement at 5:40 PM following the solid waste ordinance. All in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye as well. Number C.
Number C is the 6-year plan for secondary roads. This is a standard thing done each year with VDOT. They come to our meeting and, take comments as far as on their 6-year plan. So Mr. Mullins had asked that we add this to the agenda for the June meeting.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Evans.
I make a motion, we approve a public hearing for, public comment on the 6-year secondary road plan.
I'll second it.
Moving second on the floor to conduct a public hearing on the six-year plan for secondary roads at 5:45 PM on June 28th. All in favor, please say aye. Aye as well. D.
Lastly, Madam Chair, is item D, the Board of Supervisors salary ordinance. This is a standard item that you have to do each year, whether you change your salary or not. You have to hold a public hearing on that, so.
Madam Chair, I make a motion, we schedule a public hearing.
Can I second it? I've been here 14 years and not had a raise.
Ooh, it sounds like one might be in the works.
No, it's not. Just make
I
sure
said
we're clear
might.
on that.
And I don't charge for gas in my trips either.
We have a moving second on the floor to conduct a public hearing on the Board of Supervisors salary ordinance at 5:55 PM before our next board meeting. All in favor, please say aye. Aye as well. So next month, we meet at 5:35, 5:40, 5:45, 5:55, and our regular board meeting at 6 o'clock.
Correct.
Item number 21 is going into closed session. Need a motion?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A, 1 and 5, Section 2.2-3711A1, Personnel, 1, all departments. B, Section 2.2-3711A5, Economic Development, 1, update.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a moving second to go into closed session through the Virginia Code section that has been read. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Okay. We are now out of closed session, and I will entertain a motion to certify closed session.
I make a motion, we only discuss those issues that we previously went into closed session for.
I'll second.
Ron, I
Defer to
wrote down
Ron.
your name, but ever who Teresa puts down, it don't matter.
Sorry.
We have a moving second to certify closed session. Roll call vote. Ms. Willis, how you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Luss?
Aye.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
And an aye for myself. Number 23, I do not think we have any matters to discuss coming out of closed session. We'll move on down to item number 24, supervisors' comments. And we'll flip ends. We'll start with Mr. Evans. Caught you
I
off
think we've had
track?
a productive, no, not really, I just collecting my thoughts. Had a productive meeting. Want to keep, families in Texas in your thoughts and prayers, 14 children dead, maybe more. Appreciate Jerry Fuller and Miles Osborne again for what they did, for Mr. and Mrs. Childers and their house fire. Appreciate Mike Yates's office in putting forth a plan to help the citizens and taxpayers of the county get some relief from the inflation, inflated used vehicle prices. Got a serious budget vote coming up in a month. It's advertised now. I'm sure there may be changes, and then there'll be even more changes potentially depending on the General Assembly budget. So we've got a busy couple of months ahead, and just look forward to seeing projects eventually, hopefully, begin, like the splash pad, like our economic development project in the town, and as well as our Red Onion project. I'm just very eager to see something being done, and I think the public is as well. So I hope we just keep our nose to the ground and continue moving forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yep, Mr. Peters.
I think we got a lot to look forward to. We're with our new economic development plan. Hopefully we can start fresh and get a new focus in the county on building a future for our citizens. And again, thanks to Mike and his staff for coming up with a process for us to ease the pain with these current economic things going on with the price increases and all that. Bad enough the gas prices are so high, we don't need to tax our people to death on vehicles that they were paying less taxes on. Thank you.
Ms. Luss?
Oh, I also thank Mike and his staff for keep being able to work a plan so that our people will not be paying extra tax on their personal property. I also want to make mention that Thursday, this coming Thursday, that the Patsy Baker and some of the people from the Kiwanis and I think it's the Lions Club will be working on the memorial crosses that are to be put at the courthouse. And then they will be putting up the memorial crosses Friday at 1 o'clock if you can come and help us do that. I've asked I also want to express my appreciation to the Beta Club and others who attended the Cofield Express, the VDOT meeting we had last week. And I have asked Joy Hall, who is the sponsor of the Beta Club, if they can come and help with the crosses. So hopefully, if some of you have the time or can, please come and help us. And what they say, many hands make small work. So it'll be good. Thank you.
Ms. Willis?
I would like to thank Mr. Phillips and Mr. Barton for all the work that they've done on our strategic plan and helping us move that forward. And just thank everybody for attending also, and thank Jeremy for staying with us all the time as our deputy. He stays almost through the whole meetings, and appreciate him. Appreciate Harry hanging with us every meeting.
Yeah, I appreciate Harry.
And Larry hanging with us.
Harry and Larry.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate the board, I appreciate how we have seemed to come together to work together. I appreciate all of the county offices, the sheriffs, the commissioner, the treasurer, our board office, all offices, the garbage disposal, the solid waste people. We have very few accidents and very few people off with problems that hinders work. Appreciate everybody staying safe. Prayers for the community. Get out and support events when they happen in the county. The Ralph Stanley Festival will be going on this weekend. Even though this is the 52nd year, they are celebrating it as it's the 50th because of the COVID. So everybody just get out, have a good time, stay safe. And glad Larry and Harry and even everybody that comes out. I mean, we welcome the citizens to come out and see what we're doing or watch us on that and give us a call. Tell us, give us ideas or give us your thoughts. And appreciate it. Last item, adjourn.
I make a motion, Madam Chair, we adjourn.
Okay,
I second.
move in a second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well.